Hi guys, Archie Luxury channel, and today I want to make the video. What age should you be when you get your first Patek Philippe wristwatch? I'm just going to have a nice drop of Scotch, Ardbeg, one of my all-time favorites. And this is a really cool question. What age should you be before you get your Patek Philippe? What age should you be? And I got to tell you, I had one in my late 20s. My late 20s. I got a 3919. And I think it was probably too early. It's too early to get one at that age there, because I had to resell it for personal reasons. I ran out of money. So I think realistically, when should you get your first Patek? Cheers. Now this is a really cool question to ask, and I had a few after that. I had a few quartzies. But I got my Calatrava when I was, how old was I then? I was in my late 30s. And yeah, I loved it. But I think it was too young, because again, I sold it for personal reasons. Before I turned 40, I got an annual calendar. I had the two Pateks, and I gotta tell you, the perfect age to get a Patek Philippe is between the ages of 45 and 50. That's right, 45 and 50. The reason I say that is because if you get a Patek too early in your life, you're probably going to sell it. You're going to flip it. You're going to flip it. You're going to have life emergencies, life emergencies. And you're going to have to sell it. So I don't regret that. I don't regret selling them, but I really do think you're better off to wait. See, let me tell you this. In your 20s, you don't really appreciate it. You should be getting a young man's watch. You should be getting a Rolex or a Omega, some sort of steel sports watch. In your 30s, okay. 30s is something a little bit different. Then when you turn 40, you want something for 40, but I don't think it should be a Patek. I don't think you're mature enough for it. I really think the perfect age is 45. 45 is a good age, between 45 and 50. And that's also when you're at your peak earning potential, because I gotta tell you, this is when you are young enough to have a top-end, you're old enough to have a top-end career, but you're young enough not to be planning for retirement. So you're in that perfect period there, that 10-year period before you frantically start saving for retirement. So before 45, you've got life's struggles. Marriage, children, divorce, all that sort of stuff. And, you normally, let me just say this, before 45, you would hope to have bought some sort of dwelling, whether it's an apartment, a condo, or a house. You would have most likely gotten married, had a child or a children, plural. And this all costs money. So anything before 45, and you may need to sell it. At 45, even if you haven't achieved these things, it's too late. Too late. Not likely to be achieved. So get the Patek. And I think it's a perfect age there. It's a perfect age because you're old enough to be mature and have a little bit of money, and young enough to enjoy this damn thing. And I got to tell you, it's a known fact in the luxury car market, most people buy their best, most expensive car in their mid-40s. And that's for the same reason. They've old enough to have money, but young enough not to be planning for retirement. So it's a very important thing. The next question is, what ideally should you have as finances before you bought your Patek? Well, this is a good question. Ideally, I've got to tell you the honest truth, you've got to pay for your Patek without borrowed money. No tricky-dicky financing schemes, no leverage gearing. That's all bullshit. You got to pay cash. I mean, you got to have the money. You can't borrow. You can't borrow for this thing. You've got to have moolah. Now, that's just the reality that it is. You really should, by that stage in life, 45, you're either going to achieve a home ownership. You should have at least 50% equity in some sort of dwelling. You should at least have this is the financial criteria. To buy a Patek, you got to, number one, pay for the Patek with cash, no credit. Number two, you should have a home or an apartment, some sort of dwelling, which you got at least half is equity. Number three, your vehicle needs to be paid off. No finance on a car. The fourth thing you need is you need to make sure no credit cards, no consumer debt. You need to be pretty comfortable in your own skin. This is really important. I mean, what age should you get your first Patek? I really think 45 is the magical number, because at that age you're mature enough to respect it, but young enough to enjoy it. The other side of the coin is, if instead of buying a fancy automobile, if you bought a Patek and went for a Corolla, that'd be a much more sensible investment. I mean, let's face it, you buy a $100,000 vehicle today, in 5 years' time, 4 to 5 years' time, it's going to be, the dealer's going to give you a trade-in on it, what? Lucky to get low 30s, wouldn't you? Low 30s. So, you really got to be sensible about these things. Instead of losing that chunk of money, you're really better off to buy a less expensive car and buy a beautiful Patek Philippe wristwatch. So, I would really say, I think 45 is the age. And it's an age where you don't give a shit either. Like before then, you're so concerned. What would they say? Well, at 45, you've had a few family members who've dropped off. You've had a few friends who've had nasty accidents. You've understood that life is not forever. It's not forever. So what other people think, hopefully by 45, you don't really give a shit. You don't really care what other people think of you or your success or failure. You just want it for yourself. So I really think 45 is a great age to get a Patek Philippe. What model? How much do you spend? Hey, that's really something you got to work out. Personally, I've gone for a Patek World Time. And unless I am really financially strapped, really financially strapped, I think that is my life keeper. That's right. I'm starting to warm to the fact, hey, I don't want to resell it. I love that piece. And I think that's the kind of piece every man needs. I mean, if you can afford to get one earlier, by all means, you do what you want. But the problem is, in life, doesn't matter what class you are. If you're a very wealthy person, well, in your 20s, you want something steel and strong. Then you're going to get married and have kids, and you got your career. And so 30s isn't a great time either. 40s, a little bit too young. 45, perfect. absolutely perfect. That's a perfect time to get your Patek and enjoy it, savor it. Don't flip it, keep it. And no matter what happens in your life, keep your Patek. Just enjoy it. That's a really good thing to do. So I gotta tell you myself, I really do love my Patek Philippe, and I'm very happy to have one. My life circumstances haven't turned out the best, but at my age now, I don't care. I really do love my Patek, so I really think 45. And as I said, the financial things you really should have in order are pay cash for your Patek, some sort of dwelling you're living in, half equity. You don't want to just borrow everything. Paid off car, no consumer credit lying around, personal loans, credit cards. That is the answer, my friend. The answer. What age and what financial position do you need to be in to get a Patek Philippe? A grand classique from Patek Philippe.